Question 15, Don says, it would seem to me that this would be an extremely difficult situation for the positively polarized entity, and the learning process would be extremely traumatic. Is this correct? Ra explains, let us say that the positively polarized individual makes a poor student of the love of self and thus spends much more time, if you will, than those native to that pattern of vibrations. So here's where I'll start drawing my line of interpretation, and it will carry over to question 17, which is the longest one and takes us through the journey. Let us state that even for us here as humans, we can understand that depending on our perspective, we're going to see things in a different way. This is why we all see different events and scenarios, and we all interpret something different. It's not that the interpretation is right or wrong, it's just that it's the interpretation of the entity. In our case, us humans, we look at things and we say, this is boring, this is fun, this is catastrophic, this is actually very organized. It doesn't matter. We just have different perspectives. You know what I'm saying here. Now, the more we see things as humans, because any interpretation that we have, it's always as humans, right? We have only a frame of reference that is the human experience. The human experience is one, veiled, second, full of emotions. And these emotions clearly are centered on a separate self, an individual, an endangered person, on a person. That's the right word, person. See, the person is a character. The person is a mind construct. It's nothing real. It's a mind construct. Just like me saying an elephant dressed as a clown flying through space. That's a construct. It's not a real thing. At least not in our physical space-time. But you get my point. So, we all have different perspectives, and they're all human. But what happens when there is no more human? What is the perspective? And for this, we can go into, yes, there is the negative perspective of separation, and there is the what have you. It could be the angels, the demonics, the astral negative entities, positive entities. You can go on and on with the different perspectives. But all we're talking about here is the perspective of mind, the perspective of limited understanding, the perspective of experience understanding, or the experiential mind, right? Why am I saying all of this? Because there's only one perspective that we can talk about and say, yes, it's true. That one is present in all experiences. That perspective is the perspective of the Creator. Now, what is this perspective of the Creator? We know that it must be absolute. It must be present always. It must be not relative. It must always be there. The only thing we know about this, and funny enough, is what all our ascended masters, enlightened teachers, and so on have pointed out. And guess what? Ra also points it out. It's awareness. It's consciousness. So this is the perspective of the Creator. Now, if we go to the perspective of the Creator and not the human perspective, because that's a limited one, just like any other perspective is, then we can see that things simply are, no matter what it is. Yes? Now, yes, we can go through the mind and say, oh, this displacement of a positively polarized entity into negative is bad. That's drama, okay? That's the drama of the mind. It's a limited perspective. The infinite consciousness does not care what happens to its characters, to its persons, to its mind, body, spirit complexes. It doesn't care. One, because it has no purpose. It has no agenda. It has no intention of becoming something specific. It wants to explore itself in all possible aspects. Now, this is key to understand what is happening here, because it is your choice, really, to see if we should see the cosmic unfolding of experience as dramatic and within the character, or as the actor. Dramatic still, but as the actor, or as the audience, you may say. Because the actor is actually part of the play. The audience is not. And the character is not even existent, you see? So in the cosmic play, in both senses, it's a play in which there is a sort of theater going on, and it's also a play. It's a playing of the creator. We can also go to the perspective of the creator. So the reason why I'm explaining all of this is because Don says, it would seem to me that this would be an extremely difficult situation for the positively polarized entity, and the learning process would be extremely traumatic. This is the human perspective, thinking that the person, the human persona that we incarnate here, it's the one going to 6 density negative. It's a valid point of view, again, because it's the human perspective. But Ra doesn't say it's traumatic. It doesn't agree that it's a difficult situation. But it does say the following. They say, let us say that the positively polarized individual makes a poor student of the law of self and thus spends much more time, if you will, than those native to the pattern of vibrations. This is because the discussion was on the last question that it would have to go into negative time space. Well, it's displaced there already. So it needs to incarnate in space-time, and it would have to spend a long time in space-time to advance, to keep advancing towards unity. Now let's be real and simple here. What is the path? There's only one path, and it's a path towards unity. Now, this path bifurcates into positive and negative, but it's the same path because it's the same creator experiencing it. It's not a different creator. It's not the negative creator against the positive one, although it plays to that through the densities, but it's the same creator. So as it moves on, it gathers experience. In this weaving of the negative and the positive, this braided weaving of positive and negative, it encounters itself over and over again. This is one of those situations. Now, if you take the personality out of the mind-body-spirit complex, and this is what I'm trying to suggest here, if you take the personality, there is no person there suffering. You see, there's only healing, which is only, what is the raw materials interpretation of healing? It is correcting imbalances. Correcting imbalances is not a traumatic thing. It's just a lengthy process. So again, I don't wish to bring a mechanical view of this, but sometimes it's actually helpful because we can see that it's not that we're mechanical. We are a developing. It's almost like, look, I love the fractal perspective of the mind because the fractal seems organic. It's not mechanical, yet it moves into specific patterns, and it needs to have a sort of mechanical or mathematical plotting of the numbers for you to be able to see patterns. You see, if it wasn't for the mathematical beauty of the fractal, a few people actually know this, but if it wasn't for the mathematical beauty, which is just an inherent value, nobody created it, it's just there in nature, in the nature of mathematics. then you can see that is sort of organic and it seems to have a life. You can get fascinated by this view of the organic fractal. And what makes us think that the mind does not correspond to this view? I actually have an affinity for looking at the mind as a fractal experience, and this is including time and space. I have a whole beautiful explanation of this, which I haven't actually teach or taught yet, but I might do so soon in my Spanish audience. So, in any case, I'm derailing too much. The point is that if we can see that the mind-body-spirit complex does not have a personality, although it has a configuration in which the creator experiences a personality. You see the difference here? There is no persona. There is nobody there. It's only the creator. When you see this, you can understand why Ra, as opposed to saying, yes, it is difficult, you are correct, this is a correct assumption, or whatever, they just say, let us say that the positively polarized individual makes a poor student of the love of self. The configuration of the fractal mind here is completely lost. It doesn't understand anything. You see? So the experience of the creator through this fractal of the mind, completely organized in a positive sense, looking at negativity, is lost. So the creator, it's lost again. It's one of the most fascinating experiences for the creator, being lost. If the creator was not lost, it wouldn't have any experience. Can you see the perspective of the creator here? Can you see the beauty of this? I'm not saying, you see, I can only look at beauty and love of the creator in everything. It's the only thing that I've gotten from the raw material that is of value to me. If you can see the love in everything, then you're seen in separation. And sure enough, people who look at this and say, oh, it's a terrible thing, that should not happen, that is a thought of fear and separation. I'm sorry. I know that a lot of people actually look at this as something traumatic, like Don says, and I understand it. It's a human perspective. But to me, it's not real. It's not true. The only truth is that the creator is experiencing itself through the infinite or potential infinite fractals, which I call minds. There's fractals or mind-body-spirit complex. Actually, I have a whole beautiful model of this that I enjoy so much. But yeah, it's your choice, actually. I'm not saying please don't take my words for as a sort of I don't know, just use your discernment. But you actually have the choice of looking at this through the human perspective, the emotional self, or through the eye of the creator, which is completely non-polarized. It has no preference. You see, we still have this stigma that the creator is this being that doesn't want negativity. This is an obsolete view. The creator is negativity. The creator is both. In a universe so polarized, it must be both. Otherwise, we're segmented. Once again, the creator, and that is a process of the mind, not of consciousness. So, this is a beautiful introduction to what I'm going to talk about next in question 17. So, stick for that, please.